The most important aspect of any critical social issue is the psychology involved in it. When my beloved Mrs. L talks about the notion of child trafficking, you have to ask yourself, what motivates somebody to involve themselves in child trafficking or human trafficking? What is it? Explain it. If it's purely monetary, you understand it. If it's some kind of a psychosexual thing, it's another. You have to understand the modality of why people do it. Why people do it. Now, there's something which is also, and I have been telling people this for so long, I'm even boring myself. And that is the idea that there is this incredible sense of, I guess you might want to say it, this collective psychology and scrum that has been the part and parcel of our reaction towards things via social media. What am I trying to say? What the hell am I trying to say? Let me explain to you this. In this Thompson murder case, I never thought I would be seeing this overwhelming reaction from people, from kind of like, think about them as being like a bunch of psych-medded mean girl incels sitting back and enjoying the notion of this man, family member, husband being killed. You know, anti-social media, which is what this is, platforms, they play a critical role in the collective psychology of what's going on, amplifying this psychological phenomena described by Durkheim, by Le Bon, and others. Especially when, as I've been saying, when these platforms are manned by insorcelled, antisocial incels, high on psych meds and resentment and the like. How about this journalist Taylor Lorenz, this lunatic, her post on Blue Sky, or Bluesky as I call it, exemplifying this dynamic. While condemning the healthcare system, this benighted moonbat frames Thompson's death as a quote, as a kind of a consequence of systemic failure, tacitly and ostensibly legitimizing the crowd's anger and his execution. This highlights a broader issue. The role of these influencers and inciters and public figures in shaping the narrative that fuels this mob behavior. It's incredible. You know, Thompson's murder and the aftermath, again, illustrates this ochlocracy. You know, there's another thing, too, I want to bring in, more philosophy here. The reaction to the murder of this man highlights the psychological and the emotional toll of collective cynicism. Think about it as the collective. Hannah Arendt, the philosopher, noted that the normalization of immoral acts often begins with small compromises in social values. This is the banality of evil. The crowd's apathy, and then celebration of his death reflects this growing, systematic, horrible, rancid desensitization to violence. Violence fueled by frustration with this systemic idea, but also the idea that you are part of something, and the affirmation you receive by virtue of your lauding his death is somehow warranted and accepted by virtue of this, the role this man has played. You know, as a society, we must collectively confront these psychological forces. See, we never had crowds. If you had the old days, if you wanted to be a part of a crowd, you had to go out and find a crowd. Today, I've got 1 million people at a machine. That's my crowd. So we've got to confront these. these forces that drive crowd behavior. Educators and policymakers and parents and social media platforms have a responsibility, and I don't want to include censorship, but a responsibility to promote critical thinking and empathy, trying in effect to counteract this, again, the dehumanization that fuels mob dynamics. Listen to this line again from Gustave Le Bon. The crowd is only powerful for destruction. If we allow mob mentality to dictate our collective responses to systemic challenges, do we risk dismantling everything? Let me also say one thing about crowds. Sometimes crowds can be good. People never want to talk about this. Sometimes the crowds are interesting because the reason why this is important, crowds can sometimes act in unison and work collectively to, let's say, lift a car. A woman, let's say, who's trapped. The crowd can be mobilized for good. That can happen as well. That's kind of a rarer thing. But we think of crowds, we think of lynch mobs. Look at the old days when we would have lynch parties where blacks would be lynched, hanged from trees, and they'd have picnics and kids, and they would take pictures and sell postcards. There's nothing special about humanity. We are a very gross and a very vile, vile group of people here. We are not anything nice. We are savage. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. We are capable of the most horrific of behaviors, completely devoid and detached and disassociated from that which we used to call morality. And if you think I'm overdoing this, if you think I'm playing this, you don't understand it. You don't grasp it. Take it from me. I might exaggerate or embellish, but I'm never lying. And this is the truth. What do you think? Comment as you see fit.